Hey everyone, it's Spencer Haas here with Longtail University, and we still got a minute or so before we're going to get started, but just wanted to make sure everything was up and running and that people could see my screen and could hear me, of course. So if you're listening in already, if you could just chat in the question or chat box there that you can see my screen and that you can hear me, that would be much appreciated. And I've got Jake and Perrin with me, of course. Can you guys see my screen?
Us? Yeah, I can.
Yes.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Good deal. And yeah, other people are chiming in that yes, they can see my screen and they can hear me. So very good. We'll give just maybe another minute or so before we officially get started. But overall, we're really excited to be with you guys for this second Longtail University live training. We'll go ahead and jump into it and get started since it is 10 o'clock. Today's presentation, as you can see, hopefully on your screen if you check it out, is how to legally steal your competitors' keywords to dominate your niche. And we're going to dive into exactly what that means. And I do want to do a brief introduction with my co-host, co-panelists here. I have Perrin Carroll. So Perrin, why don't you jump in and just give a brief intro, and then we'll let Jake do the same.
Yeah, hey everybody, it's Perrin. You guys probably know me from nichepursuits.com, and I wrote and directed and edited a whole bunch of the stuff at Longtail University, so you're probably seeing a lot of my work there as well.
Awesome. So, yeah,
Hey guys,
go ahead, Jake.
sorry. Hey guys, it's Jake Kane, and I work with Spencer on Longtail Pro. So I manage the content over at longtailpro.com at the blog, along with other marketing efforts with the Longtail Pro software. So it's good to be here today, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, the finest city in the finest state of America, I'd say.
Oh, wow. Gonna drop the hammer just like that. Well, you know, I'm up in Washington State. I didn't grow up in Washington, but we're quite proud of our state here as well. So uh, we'll leave that for another day. But we are getting some people chiming in from where they're from. Rob is from Orange County, California, so thanks for joining us, Rob. And looks like Michael is from Trinidad and Tobago, and he's looking forward to the webinar. Says he missed the first. Is it still accessible? Yes, it is. If you log into Longtail University in the members area, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, we have the replay video of the first webinar. So you guys feel free to chime in and say either where you're from if you want, or just certainly as you have questions or comments along the way, type that into the chat box, and I'll be trying to answer those as we go. And then when we get to the end, we'll definitely have a question and answer session where we can dive into any remaining questions that we didn't cover. So let's jump right into it. Basically, what are the advantages of stealing? And you know, this is in quotes because you're really not stealing anything. You're just doing your best to see what's working for your competitors and then trying to apply that to your own website. So the advantages of stealing your competitors' keywords is that it's faster than the traditional way of just going through the process of finding keywords. And in addition, the keywords, they've been proven in the marketplace. What that means is that because your competitors are already ranking for these keywords, you can know that certainly if your competitors are lower authority or weaker types of sites and they're ranking, that's a sure way to know that, hey, this might be a really low competition keyword and competitors just like me are ranking, so why can't I? So overall, there's no more guesswork that you have to do. You can just go in and know that these keywords work. And so again, this is a slide that I covered last time, but I want to cover it again just to explain the importance of going through all this work to find low competition long tail keywords. And the primary reason for that is because 70% of all keyword traffic comes from long tail keywords. And I just pulled up a graph on the screen. If you want to check that out, there's the search demand curve, and it shows that all these big head terms that maybe get searched for millions or hundreds of thousands of times per month, or even down as it shows in the graph, maybe it's only a couple of thousand times a month, still really considered a head term in many cases. That only accounts for 18.5%, the middle terms 11.5%, and then the long tail terms, the terms that only get searched for maybe maybe a few hundred, several hundred, down to 5 or 10 times per month, is 70% of all the search engine traffic. So if you're able to tap into these long tail keywords, you can immensely improve the amount of traffic coming to your website. Now, the process of finding new keywords, now this is the old way, or the traditional way, I should say. This is still a process that you should be going through, and this is probably where you will find most of your keywords. But then I want to move into, well, how can you kind of shortcut the system? So traditionally, we go through the process, well, you go out and you brainstorm ideas, and that could be in a number of ways, and we have a full cheat sheet on where you can brainstorm your ideas. And then you use keyword tools, perhaps Longtail Pro, to expand your list of keywords. And after you've done that, you kind of narrow that down and find the keywords that actually meet your criteria, your search volume, your CPC, other criteria that you're looking for, that this potentially is a great keyword. And then, of course, to validate that, you need to know if it's low competition. So you go out and analyze the top 10 results in Google, and if those are low competition, you try those out, and you write content on that, and you put it up on your website, and you hope that you get traffic. And this process does work. This is something that we teach quite thoroughly throughout Longtail University. This is the primary strategy that we do, and of course we've gone in depth with that. However, perhaps there is an easier way, and that's what we're going to show you here today, is that easy way. So the process primarily for stealing your competitor keywords is to first find websites in your niche, and preferably websites that are less authoritative, weaker types of sites, and that just happen to be ranking for keywords. And then you find the long tail keywords that they are already ranking for in Google, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. And then, of course, you just use those keywords on your site. It's pretty simple. You go out, you see what they're ranking for already. They've already done the hard work of researching and actually ranking on Google for those keywords. And then you just come in and hopefully take advantage of all that hard work that they've done. So here's the basic steps of finding competitor keywords. First, you want to go out to Google and check for who is already ranking in your niche, as I explained. Then you use a tool, and there are some other longer methods, but SEMrush just makes it so much easier to see what keywords they're already ranking for. And then you can just cherry pick the lower competition keywords. And then, of course, what I would recommend is that you double check how competitive those keywords really are, because SEMrush doesn't give you a competitiveness metric, so you need to go out and double check that. And of course, you can do that in Longtail Platinum by checking the keyword competitiveness number. So, and then of course you can go out and you can find additional competitors and additional keywords in SEMrush. And so honestly, we're going to spend the majority of this webinar doing live examples. Now, we shared some examples in our last webinar of keywords that we found, and we used keyword modifiers to make these easier to rank for. So these are perhaps where we're going to start. We're going to have some continuity here with our last webinar. We used these search phrases: best laptops, CrossFit training, and CB radios, and we added all sorts of modifiers to make those easier to rank for.
Can I pop in real quick, Spencer?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the reasons this is a really good strategy, or maybe just to add to the business case that we've already built here, is kind of twofold. The first is that by using a tool like Longtail Pro, which really is, our primary keyword research tool that we use every day, you're going to find a lot of keywords that look good on paper. The problem is you might be missing some keywords that don't look good on paper, or you might be skipping over keywords that look too competitive or whatever, that for whatever reason that we can't see may not be as competitive. So if you look at all of your competitors, especially if they have a domain authority similar to yours, you can find some of those keywords that actually are low competition that just don't look good on paper, and we're probably going to show you a few examples of that. The second reason is that it's scalable. So if you're using tools like Longtail Pro, you're kind of limited by your own brainstorming power, and you might, exhaust some of that stuff, or if you're getting into a niche that you don't know much about, you just might not know the best seed keywords. But by researching your competitors, you have basically an endless supply of keywords to look for, and at the very least you're going to have endless supply of seed keywords to plug into Longtail Pro. But it'll give you hundreds and hundreds of opportunities to find really good keywords that people are already ranking for. So the two reasons that I really like this strategy is one, you're going to find keywords that actually are low competition that don't look like it, and two, you're going to have many more ideas than you could come up with on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for jumping in there, Perrin, and giving us that some additional thoughts there. What I went ahead and did is I popped in a keyword that we found in our last webinar, best laptop for graphic designers, and put it into Longtail Pro. As you can see on my screen here right now, it's pulled up the top 10 results in Google. And now what we can do is go through here and look for these sites that are perhaps weaker, maybe have a lower page authority or a lower domain authority, and then we can go use SEMrush. And there's actually several here that are under 30. Let's maybe just take the #1 result, this laptopcomputerplanet.com. All with dashes in between the words, has a domain authority of 29. So I'm going to pull up SEMrush and type in best laptop.
And while you're doing that, Spencer, I should make a note that you can do this with either the free or paid version of SEMrush. Of course, it works better with the paid version because you're going to get lots more results, but really if you just use lots of competitors, you can just see like the top 10 keywords for a whole bunch of different websites that you plug in. So you can do it either way.
Yes. Yep, good point. Took me a second there to get the right website, but I think I got it. laptopcomputerplanet.com. And so you can see this is a fairly newer website. Well, they have some traffic back here, not sure. Probably was an expired domain, but just recently they've started to get some great traffic, and what's cool is you can come in here and see what keywords they're already ranking for. So their top keywords, their top keyword actually is the one that I typed in there, and if you hover over the traffic bar, you can see that 20% of their traffic comes from that keyword, and then you can see best computer for graphic designers, and on and on. So let's view the full report and see if we get any differences. I didn't run any of these beforehand, so this is probably a really good practice into realistically how long something like this might take to do. So I'm just looking for some keywords other than maybe graphic design. It looks like, we could certainly write an article on best computer for graphic design. But if I scroll through here and look at this, almost all of these are for graphic designers. Best PC for graphic design. Let's see.
I think you are going to find results like that, and when you do, like when you have a small website ranking almost entirely for one article, which all of these are probably in one article.
Right.
It's not going to be super useful, but you can still use it by taking some of these keywords and sprinkling them into your article, because you know that these people have one article that's ranking for all these keywords, so you can take some of these long tails that they are ranking for with the same article, sprinkle them into your H2 headings or just even in the paragraphs, so you can still use it even if there aren't a ton of really different results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this isn't a perfect example, but there are still some ideas here, right? So there's laptops for artists that they're ranking for that you could certainly target. There's best monitor for designers. That might be a different article, I'm not quite sure. Graphic design drawing pad, best laptop for multimedia. So those actually are some keywords, for example, let's just double check this just to go through the entire example, right? So even though it only gets searched for maybe 40 times per month, that is a great long tail keyword. So best laptop for multimedia, a weak website is already ranking for that. Let's now check officially to see, well, what's the keyword competitiveness, the KC score. And so we'll see if this one is, low or high. And they actually don't rank in the top 10. It looks like they rank number 18. So the first page on this one is a little bit more difficult. It's a 37. So for this keyword, you'd probably be somewhere on the second page. So let's go ahead and maybe pop in our second example keyword, which CrossFit training, and see what we can pull up here. So we had, and maybe Jake or Perrin, you can remind me of what some of the modifiers were. We had CrossFit training.
Versus weight training.
Versus weight training, I think, is one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see a couple of websites here I'm familiar with, actually. Not sure if I want to use one of these as an example. Let's see here. All of these have a little bit higher domain authority than I usually like to go, but let's try this last one, spotmebro.com. Awesome domain name, don't you think?
That's great.
Spot Me Bro, I like it. So spotmebro.com. Let's run through a quick example, and we're going to show you some other examples here as well. Spotmebro.com. So they're actually pulling in a decent amount of traffic, as you can see here. They've almost got 100,000 visits from organic traffic, right? Okay, maybe this isn't a good example, but we've got some more adult terms here. But there's benefit of squats. I may have to. Maybe this isn't. For the sake of keeping it more family friendly, let's maybe move on to a different one. This one's got a little bit, risque terms in there. So yes. let's move on to CB radios.
You need to cut that out of the recording, Spencer.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna have to edit this one for sure.
That out.
Won't let my kids watch this webinar. Don't want to do that. So CrossFit or CB radios. So CB radios. And
CB radio reviews,
and then we had CB radios under $200 or something like that, right? So we certainly got bestcbradioreviews.com. I don't know if they're ranking for any other key terms as well, but let's give it a shot. And then maybe we'll try cbradioclub.com because those are the two with the two lowest domain authority overall. So bestcbradioreviews.com. They're not ranking for a lot of key terms, but this actually isn't a bad example. I can already see there's best compact CB radio, best CB radio, best CB radio reviews is the one, or CB radio reviews is the one we typed in, but best CB microphone. And so I'm going to just take a couple of these. Best CB radio is one that we can pop into our keyword tool, and then best CB microphone is another one. So best CB radio is down here at the lower half of my screen. Let me scroll down here, or minimize that at least. Best CB radio has a keyword competitiveness of 31, and so I can see that that is within my range of a keyword that would potentially be worth targeting. So right there, I'm able to kind of take that keyword and run with it. And then best CB microphone, I can see is much lower competition, a KC of 20, which makes it quite low. And so that's something that, right away I could swoop in. I know that this guy is ranking number 4 for best CB microphone, and it's an extremely low authoritative site. I could very easily, probably without much more than just writing the article, maybe a couple of backlinks, could be ranking for best CB microphone without a problem. I could go in here and view the full report and potentially see lots of other ones, such as top 10 CB radios, best Cobra CB radio, best small CB radio, top rated CB radios, Cobra versus Uniden CB radios. So any thoughts, Jake and Perrin, as I'm kind of going through here, that you want to add any thoughts here?
Sure. So I think this is a really good example of the types of keywords that you can find without knowing the market. I don't know anything about CB radios, so I don't know the brands. So I would have never come up with this idea of like best CB radio, or I'm sorry, best Cobra CB radio. Or what was the other one? Cobra versus something.
Uniden down here at the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, Uniden. So like these are the types of keywords that you probably wouldn't brainstorm on your own, especially because they might have different modifiers or whatever. So these are some, I think that's a really good lesson to take away, is that just by looking at competitors, you can find stuff that you might not have found otherwise. I also think it's useful to maybe go over the profile of the perfect target when you're looking for these types of keywords. So the perfect target for me is obviously a site with a DA that's around mine, or a DA that I think I can achieve in a couple months. But also, if you look at the left-hand column, the positions, if you're just trying to find a good site to steal keywords from, you want to plug in a site and then see a position number up in that left-hand column. Spencer, if you can scroll up just a little bit, that's in the hundreds or thousands, so that you have lots and lots of stuff to look at.
Gotcha. Yep. So that's the number of keywords basically that they're ranking for in the top 20, I believe, is what it is.
Right.
The other thing that I just keep an eye out for, I use this method a lot myself, is when you go into Longtail Platinum like Spencer was doing and looking at best CB radio and things like that, is that typically when you see that this guy's ranking for it, usually in those top 10 results, every time you do it, you find another site or two that's in that top 10 that also has a low domain authority. So sometimes, like if I was looking at this site and it had just 25 or so positions that it was ranking for, so it's not the best example, I might still go run that, best CB microphone, and then from there just kind of look at those results and say, oh, okay, well, let's go look at walcottradio.com now. So I'll just jump back to SEMrush and just change my domain. And then I don't know if we're getting into how detailed we're going to get into this, but you can also see competitors in SEMrush if you'd like to do it that way. But I just kind of glanced at these top 10 results, and a lot of times you can find some other avenues to go down just by doing that as well. So just make a note for yourself and kind of get a list. And as Perrin was saying earlier, you can once you get into this, you can do it for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are. Let's kind of go down this rabbit hole just a little bit more. This has really just been on the surface, if you will. Let's do exactly right. So let's just take the lowest one other than Best CB Radio Reviews looks like is this 24, this redmancb.com. So I'll come back here and pop that in. We could also do wellcaughtradio.com and this other one here, or several others, but so let's do redmancb.com in SEMrush, and then we'll also show how to do competitors directly in SEMrush. Did I spell that right? Redmancb. Yeah. So this one has 304 keywords that they're ranking for. So a little bit more. This one, it looks like there's going to be a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but there's going to be some brands here that I'm guessing, Fatboy Amps, Redman CB is perhaps they are the brand, but CB radio supplies, CB radio test equipment, CB radio parts, CB radio mounts. Boy, there's just a huge list of keywords. 10-meter radios for sale. You could compile a huge list, and in fact, what I often do when I find some really good, a site that is ranking for a lot of keywords that I'm, thinking, hey, I want to target these. This is a site like mine, perhaps. You can just come in here and export all of these keywords, and just this button here, you just click export and it'll save it. But what you could go into that, just copy and then paste all of those keywords up here in Longtail Pro. You just put them in your own keyword list, so you could pop in up to 10,000, and it'll go through and it'll pull in all of the stats for those, and then you can start using Longtail Pro to dig a little bit deeper on really what keywords you want to target. But and again, you can sort all of these columns by a different methods, whether they're ranking #1, what the search volume is. So if you only want to see the keywords that get high search volume that they're still ranking for, or their percentage of traffic, which is a pretty interesting one. If you see they're getting a ton of traffic, Redman CB, I'm guessing that's their own brand, but 10-meter radio perhaps is one that's getting 3% of their traffic. You could come in and probably rank for that fairly easily, because this is a low domain authority website. Okay, so now let's go in and actually look at competitors directly within SEMrush. And what you're able to do, let me go back to the main page here. Well, I'll just click on competitors. You can click on competing websites, and this pulls in, as you can see, tons of sites that are related to this other website. And you can also see how many keywords are they ranking for. So if you want to find, it's not letting me sort that at the moment, but if you want to come in here and only look at the results that are getting the most keywords, you can do that. So roadtrucker.com is ranking for about 1,400 keywords. And so you can come in here and then see exactly what they're ranking for. We've got 12 volt microwave, 12 volt appliances, anyways, you can start to imagine how far down this rabbit hole you can go. You could click on individual keywords here and get related keywords, and then you can come back and click on other ranking websites again if you wanted to. And so now you can see I'm starting to perhaps get into a different niche slightly, but you can just keep going and going to look at competitors, to look at their keywords, see what they're ranking for, and hopefully find a whole list of keywords that are a little bit easier that you can literally use from their website and apply to your own.
And if you don't have a website yet, this might also help you find seed keywords. So looking at this list, we might have started with CB radios, and that was our idea. That's the market we thought we wanted to get into, but we may have found trucker GPS. And then by examining it, we might have found that it's just a much better market. So you can do this at any stage of the process, whether you're looking for 100 more keywords for CB radio so you can expand your site, or if you're just looking for a way to get a lot more good seed keywords and explore different markets. Also, Spencer, I was going to maybe give you what I think is an ideal site to take from, if you want to plug it in real quick.
Absolutely.
So it's bestcrossbowsource.com. This is one that I just found because I was using hunting as an example in a previous video we did on niche pursuits, but this is a DA34 site, and what I really like about this site is that it's ranking for thousands of keywords, so like 1,400 different keywords, I think, and it's got a whole bunch of the keywords that have modifiers we know are useful based on the cheat sheet in Longtail University, and it's got a bunch of brands that we may not know about. So I think this is a really good example of the type of site that I would think is ideal. I mean, if I was looking at a bunch of different competitors, this is the kind of site that I would stop at and really spend a lot of time digging into their keywords.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good example. And I just pulled up, for people listening in, they can see on my screen now, I just pulled up all of the keywords that they're ranking for. Best crossbow for the money, Excalibur crossbow, and like Perrin said, all these other brands that perhaps if we weren't in the niche we might not know about. Barnett crossbow reviews, hunting crossbow, and on, just tons of keywords. 10-point crossbow reviews, lots of really long tail keywords that is going to make our life a whole lot easier, because we know a fairly weak website with a low domain authority is already ranking for these key terms, so we should be able to do that as well fairly quickly, at least a lot quicker than if we're going after much more competitive keywords. Now, certainly, as you guys are listening in, feel free to type in your questions. I can see that a few are coming in. We will get to those here in just a second, but to kind of reiterate the process that Perrin mentioned, he found this crossbow website because he was doing some research previously. Here's kind of another way to go about it that's slightly different than what we showed previously here. So let's say that you want to go into a niche, and maybe that's crossbows. In the example that you can see on the screen, this is for hunting. This is just a screenshot. If you were outside of Longtail Pro and you had, you wanted to go into the hunting niche, types of sites that are really easy to outrank, at least a lot of times, are forums. Because forums are, generally speaking, all user-generated content. The owners aren't actively, at least typically, out building links, and so they usually don't have a lot of links. They usually have a lower domain authority. And so we did a quick Google search for hunting forums or hunters forums, and these are the results that we got. In this example, we have the Moz bar installed, which shows the page authority, domain authority. And so one that's fairly low is TexasHuntingForum.com, And so we would take that and run with it. We'd type that into SEMrush and start looking at all the results. But that is a strategy I wanted to mention specifically, is that forums in particular can be weaker. And so no matter what niche you're in, you can do that. You can just type in, CB radio forums, pocket knife forums, or CrossFit training forums, and you're going to get all kinds of results. These are websites that are ranking for longer tail phrases that you can jump in, steal those keywords, and certainly do a better job of creating original content than they're doing, and you can outrank them fairly quickly.
Yeah, and maybe I can jump in here for this one too. So forums are really good for a certain type of keyword, and that's mostly the information-heavy keywords. So these aren't going to typically be your real money makers, but they're really good for building traffic, for building an audience, and for filling out your site so you don't just have 500 pages of affiliate content. So forums are places where people ask questions. If you do have a hunting site, I think one of the keywords that I found in that forum was hunting blind plans. So these are people searching for plans to build their own hunting blinds. And that could be like a really good YouTube video, a YouTube cut-up like the digital marketer guys like to do, something that you could promote on social media, something that's going to be very Hummingbird friendly, which is like a Google update that favors questions that people are asking. So these are really good types of questions types of keywords to build like the informational side of your site, which can help you build an audience, capture leads, maybe get a little bit of AdSense revenue. These are usually really easy to write, so they're going to be like shorter articles with easier instructions and that kind of thing. So not necessarily for products, that's where you would really dive into your competitors, but for informational articles, I really like looking at forums.
Yeah, I agree. And so I just popped in this forum as well. The final step, and I already showed this on the other keywords, but I do want to reiterate that it is still important to really check the competition. At least that's the best way to go about it. Just because they're ranking, you do want to make sure, okay, this really is a low competition keyword. And here I just pulled up the chart for keyword competitiveness. Once again, I like to target keywords that certainly if they have 20 or less, I'm going to go after that in full force. 20 to 30, that's definitely still low competition and is something that I will almost always go after. When I start to get to the 30 to 40 range, that's more moderate competition. Certainly, 30 to 35 is a maybe. 35 to 40, almost never will I target, and never anything over 40. It's not worth it. There's so many keywords that have lower competition, 30 or less, that it's not worth going after these head terms in the 40 to 100 range. There's only, whatever it was, 18.5% of keyword traffic coming from those keywords anyway, so you might as well just focus on where 70% of the traffic is and go after these lower competition keywords. So, having said that,
I think it's worth making the point. Sorry, Spencer. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to make the point, and Perrin brought this up on the last webinar, that with what Spencer just said, a lot of times, in a long tail phrase, there are head terms included in that. So by going after a long tail phrase, you're not necessarily not targeting the more generic, higher volume term. It's grouped in there as well. So kind of by default, you're targeting both. And I've seen that personally, and actually very recently with a site that I work on, where I was targeting a lower competition term that was in the 20s, whatever, and I'm ranking well for that. But then inside of that, there's a shorter, more generic head term that I'm up to page 2 for, that going into it, I would have never targeted that term by itself because it was too competitive. But just by the fact that I've ranked for a bunch of low competition keywords with this one page, I've started to pick up some links and some social sharing and things like that. And then just naturally, I've started to move up the ranks for the more competitive versions of that word that out of the gates I wouldn't have targeted. So it's an important point, that just by taking that strategy, it's not like you're completely punting and giving up on ranking for high volume or competitive stuff, that stuff will come too. But it's certainly the path of least resistance to stick to the low competition early on.
Yeah, and an example of that, just to drive that point home, might be something like CB radios or best CB radios for the money. Okay, so that's a nice long tail phrase. It's probably going to be lower competition, best CB radios for the money. But, you know, so you're going to rank for that full phrase probably first. But later on, you've still got that phrase best CB radios, which is a little bit shorter tail that you can also rank for. And then finally, if you really do quite well, if that page is, you know, attracting links and for whatever reason it's quite popular, you could also rank for the term CB radios, so a very huge head term. So it's exactly right. By going after these long tail phrases, it's not like you'll never hit on a term that gets more traffic. It's just you're doing both, and you're strategizing better and a little bit smarter. So having said that, I am interested in doing more live examples. And as you can see from this picture, I'm looking for volunteers. So anybody out there that maybe has a niche that you want us to look into, or if you're willing to share your own website, you know, maybe we can do that. But so either in the chat box, type either a keyword that you'd like us to look into, or a niche that you'd like us to look into, or perhaps your own, you know, your own website if you want to share that. So I am looking for volunteers for that. So we're getting a few key phrases here: motocross, meditation niche, children's books, mindfulness, martial arts websites. Somebody loves the cat image. Yeah, no, I liked it too. I had to make sure to show it a little longer here on this this webinar.
I think the motocross one came up last time too, so maybe we should give that gentleman.
Somebody really wants the motocross. You're right. There's accident care. Somebody is sharing their website. All right, the motocross person is very excited. Camping, martial arts marketing. Man, a lot of interesting niches. Sure, why not? Let's go with motocross. Since we've got that one. So how do we want to do this? I mean, the full process is, you know, I probably would do some brainstorming. You know, you're probably not going to just rank for motocross. But let's go ahead and pop it right into.
What about some kind of motocross training or tips? I'm not sure the motocross angle we're taking, but add some kind of modifier like that.
Right. Have some.
Yeah, motocross, sure, training. Let's see what pulls up for that. Getting a lot of motocross facilities.
All right. So I also I got a search for I searched for best motocross helmet. That was my seed keyword. Went through the Google results until I found like 34. I'm not going to give this to you because there are also some inappropriate results in this one, but there are some good ones as well. So like one of the ones that I came up with was most expensive dirt bike, which is an article that they're ranking #1 for. This is a site that's like a DA34. It's got a search volume of 140, which is very respectable because you're going to rank for lots of long tails anyway. And the article doesn't look super good. So this and this particular site, even though it's ranking for some inappropriate stuff, is ranking for hundreds of keywords. So definitely something you can. I mean, but the article that's ranking is not even 300 words. So that's a really good one.
Yeah, no, that's a good example. Let's also do another example here. Somebody just suggested camping. That's kind of broad. Maybe there's some angle we can go there in the camping niche. What do you think is a good angle we can go there besides just the word camping? Let's.
Well, you could go grab a camping forum if you want.
That's a good point.
In other words, do a Google search.
There you go. I like that. Let's do that.
So campingforums.com is a DA26 site. They're ranking #1, so probably not out building links. And they have a forum on their homepage. And that's a note we didn't make. When you're looking for forums, you want to make sure that the whole domain is a forum, not just a subdomain, because SEMrush is going to pull up everything for the domain. And so you may not actually be looking at forum keyword results.
Yep. Good point.
Campingforums.com is only DA26, and it's it seems to be ranking for most stuff.
Let's check that one out. And that's probably what I should have just done with motocross. Just typed in motocross forums, and we could have done the same thing. So yeah, let's take campingforums.com. Let's go over here. And see what they're ranking for. Definitely a few hundred keywords here. And portable power supply for camping. I never would have thought of that. Biodegradable toilet paper. Camping games for adults. That's kind of an interesting keyword.
Sometimes, piggybacking off of our last webinar, if I see something like portable power supply for camping, I'll just pop a modifier on the front of it or the back of it. So it might be best portable power supply for camping, and it'll be lower competition, and you'll be able to plug some products in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of ways, and same with biodegradable toilet paper. It could be best or reviews, or right. You could modify that quite easily. So this is pretty good. Do-it-yourself camp shower. Tent pad, hinge door tents, best tent fan. A lot of great keywords here in the camping tent. And actually, the person that suggested camping said we should look more into outdoor camping games. I can already see that we found that one there.
Yeah, that camping games for adults, I just ran it with KC of 20.
Nice.
Yeah.
So super low competition. So yeah, this is a good example. Within just 5 minutes here, we've got at least 10 or 15 keywords, and I haven't even gone through most of this list. I would come back here and I would plug in. I would probably, if I was serious about this niche, I would plug in all 10 of these, right? Even though some of them are higher competition or domain authority, I would still focus on the lower competition ones first. But to just expand that, why not? Look at everything and just get a huge list and then prioritize those based on either KC or whatever you're trying to do. So I think that was a pretty good example. We're going to kind of start to wrap this up. I do want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A if there is anything, any other additional questions that people have. Now is your chance. Go ahead and pop in any type of questions related to keyword research, and certainly this particular topic of stealing your competitors' keywords. Please type that in, and so we can answer those now. I'm going to also go back here and try to reread through some of these questions as we go. Maybe while I'm doing that, if Jake or Perrin, if you have any other examples or anything else you want to just mention, now might be a good time.
Sure, yeah. So one of the things that I mentioned up front was finding keywords that don't look good on paper when you're using tools. And the way you do that in SEMrush is to look for keywords, because when you search for keywords in SEMrush by default, it will sort them by the percentage of traffic that keyword is responsible for. So what you want to look for the keywords that look too competitive but you may be able to get some traffic with are keywords that a site with a low DA is getting a lot of traffic for, that usually has high volume and that they are not on the first page for. So the reasoning is, if you see a keyword that a low DA site is ranking for, they're not on the first page. They might be ranking, number 12 or number 18 or whatever, and it's still bringing in traffic even though they're on the second page. It might look competitive, but it can still get you visitors. So that's kind of a hack that I like to use, and it's a good way to go after longer keywords with a little bit of risk management. So it's not totally wasted effort. Even if you get on page 2, which is usually pretty easy, you're still going to get some traffic, and then maybe someday you get on page 1 and you get even more. But that's another strategy with this method.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people are asking, are there any other ways outside of SEMrush? We did mention that you can use the free version of SEMrush to get a nice snapshot. You can get, I think, the top 10 or so keywords that they're ranking for. You can go over to the Google Keyword Planner and punch in any URL, and it will give you a list of keywords based on that website. So you can certainly do that. It doesn't have the advantage of which key terms are getting the most traffic, or our lower competition, that sort of thing. It just sort of spits out what perhaps are the most relevant. So you can start there, and that can give you some ideas, and then you can use the free version of SEMrush as well.
And then the way you would modify it if you're using the free version, because you're only going to get 10 results, is just to make that up with more competitors. So if you look at 20 or 30 different camping sites or whatever, you'll have 200 or 300 keywords to look at without paying anything. Also, when I was really building sites on a budget, I would just sign up for a month of SEMrush and do all my keyword research in that 1 month. So it's kind of like paying that monthly fee for 500 keywords or whatever it was that I found, which is totally worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are getting some interesting questions here. So Eric is asking, is there a way to keep competitors from stealing my keywords, especially after I do all of this work? Well, unfortunately, I don't think that there's a way you can prevent people from seeing what you're ranking for. With all of these tools that we mentioned, people are going to see where you're getting your traffic from, what you're ranking for. Unless Jake or Perrin, you have any other ideas, I mean, you can block certain spiders from crawling your website. And so I don't know if there's one for SEMrush, if you can block SEMrush from indexing your site. That might be worth looking into. That's a possibility. I know you can block Moz or Ahrefs or a lot of these other companies. You can go in and block the spiders from crawling your website. So that might be worth looking into. But outside of blocking it from Google, people are still going to be able to see your site.
Yeah, I actually do have a strategy for dealing with competitors trying to steal your keywords, and that's to just 100% not care about it. Because if someone edges you down a spot for a keyword, it's not going to make any difference in your site. If you're building a site in the correct way, you're going to be ranking for thousands and thousands of long-tail keywords naturally just from your articles. And nobody's going to edge you out of the SERPs totally for all of those. So don't worry about it. I've seen competitors overtake me for really big keywords, and maybe it knocked me down 50 visits a day or something. In the grand scheme of things, that's virtually nothing. So don't worry about it, is my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just move on to another question here. How does this method, Rob is asking, how does this method apply to people that are focused primarily on T-shirt sales? Well, I think that really depends on what niche you're trying to sell T-shirts to, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's how I would view it, because certainly you've got to have an audience, you've got to have a niche that you're focused on, and that's going to determine what you are trying to rank for. So you're probably, unless, I again, this could be really broad. You know, are you the t-shirt maker? Are you trying to rank for things like, you know, how to make custom t-shirts? Are you the one making the custom t-shirts? If so, that's one angle. But if you're trying to sell t-shirts to, you know, sports fans or, you know, college football fans, that's a whole different ballgame. So it really depends. So my answer is figure out who your niche is, who are your buyers, and then start doing exactly what we just did. You know, either finding forums, that could be college football forums, or it could be people making t-shirt forums, and then plug that into these tools and kind of go from there. So let's see.
Also, your competitors.
Go ahead.
Also, your competitors. So you should at the very least know who your like top 5 competitors are. See what they're ranking for and take those.
Absolutely. And here's another interesting one. So we might, all three of us have to put our heads together on this one, but says Michael here is saying he basically bought a website related to James Bond. The new 007 movie Spectre is what he's trying to target to get traffic. So what do we suggest there? I'll let you guys take a stab at that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, like, yeah, that sounds like it's going to be tough. But I think your best thing probably isn't trying to steal a competitor keyword necessarily, but I think that type of niche and that type of site, that outreach is going to be your biggest friend. So like trying to do something, I hate to use this example, but like BuzzFeed or something like that would do, like some kind of interesting tidbits about James Bond or something that like James Bond fans would like to share and that they would find interesting and kind of cool, like work on content that comes up with that. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be super keyword focused, and then reaching out and like networking with other people that have James Bond fan sites and sort of people in that space to like get connected and get links is like at least the first step I would take, and then from there, you know, you could try to go into more specific keywords and stuff like that. I mean, that's, if I were doing something like that, that'd be the first thing that I would spend my time on.
Yeah, and the other thing to realize with that is that movie keywords, movie title keywords are a different type of keyword, and there are a few industries like this, and I know a guy who used to have a really large movie site. It's actually Chris Lee from RankXL. He discloses this in some of his case studies. But they're a different type of keyword. So Google doesn't want to wait 6 months to rank you for that keyword if you have the best information, because it's a time-sensitive keyword. They want to provide their users with the best information they possibly can before that movie comes out or right after it comes out. So they're going to show preference to the first person who has information that people are actually interacting with. So being first is a lot of it with that type of keyword. Also, what you can do is find a website that consistently ranks for those types of terms. So James Bond 007, Spectre, trailer 2016 or whatever it is, and see how they structure their keywords. And if there's a particular formula they're using, the best advice would probably be to use that keyword structure, that title structure, that URL structure, and to just try to be first.
Yeah, I agree. And then I also think there are some other, you know, keywords that they could be focusing on. You know, when I think about movies, a lot of people are probably searching for actors and the celebrities involved in making the movie. So that would be a lot of the focus. You know, who is the actor that plays James Bond in Spectre, right? You know, is kind of an article there or a key term. And then you could certainly focus on the forums and implementing this still in keyword strategy by doing, there's probably James Bond forums. You know, there's certainly movie forums, and you know, there's probably, you could look at the individual actors and actresses involved in the movie and do forums, that sort of thing. So tons of keywords that you could be targeting for that particular topic. So there is another question here, and this will actually kind of lead us into our next webinar, if you will. But Indro, sorry, is in the process, or is asking, what is the process after you find a keyword? What should be the article length and that sort of thing? And so That is the primary topic of the next webinar. So I don't want to leave you hanging, completely, but it kind of depends. It depends on, Jake mentioned, it's sort of BuzzFeed articles. You might be doing really short, socially shareable or curated content. So that's one type of thing. Or there's really in-depth, long, 3,000 word tutorials. It really just kind of depends. I will say that overall, Google tends to favor longer content. There was a study recently done by Moz. They just came out with the ranking factors, and it showed that longer articles tend to rank higher. So, and I believe it was 2,500 words or more. The articles ranking on the first page of Google tended to be those longer articles. So, but we will dive into that in depth in our next webinar. That's what we're going to talk about. So, overall, I think we've covered most of what we wanted to cover. We appreciate you guys joining us on this webinar. Jake or Perrin, are there any final thoughts or anything, any parting words that you want to leave with anybody?
Yeah, Jake just reminded me of this. For that last question, if you can't wait until the webinar, there is a Longtail University lesson on that. So you can go check that out in the meantime.
Absolutely. There is an entire lesson on that specific topic. And so this webinar as well will be in the replay, but there's all those videos that we have there, those 10 lessons plus a couple of bonus videos, and now this will be the second webinar video. We'll be doing a final webinar next week, so watch for that email where we will be talking more about what do you do once you find the keyword. What do you do with content? How do you get that on your website and start ranking for that? So overall, thank you guys for joining us here on the second live Longtail University webinar. In the meantime, go ahead and check out any additional lessons for review, but please, hopefully you'll join us next week for the final live webinar. Thanks again. We'll see you guys.